Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session, Document Auto Classification and Entity Extraction. I am Nirjhar Sarkar, and I work as a technical design expert in Novartis.
Hi, everyone. This is Veysel Kocaman from Johnson Labs. I am the lead data scientist over there that we have been working on this project with Novartis for the last few months. So, hi again.
Moving on, before we actually go into the entire presentation, here's a disclaimer. All right, so in this session, we are going to discuss an application of NLP on a specific use case in our industry, which is about automating the migration of submission documents from unstructured and legacy source system into a structured enterprise content management system. Before we move on, we would like to define what artifacts, attributes, and entity are in the context of our migration and our use case. Artifacts are basically document types that are defined in the TMF Reference Model. It could be FDA Form 1572. It could be the curriculum vitae of sub-investigator. It could be the site staff qualification supporting information. There are several such artifacts or document types, out of which we are dealing with about 48 artifacts. Each artifact has certain attributes. Now, these attributes are basically the metadata that need to be set on the document when the document or the content is imported into the target system. For example, if you are dealing with FDA Form 1572, then you will need to import the document as well as set the first name, last name, the signature date, the expiration date as metadata. The importance of setting the metadata is one, that it helps the document to be filed in a proper place. Two, we have a lot of rules that drives the name of the document. And these are particularly done keeping in mind the ability for the inspectors during inspections to locate the documents, the submission documents very easily. The first name, last name are then grouped as entity. And as you see, it's basically the person name entity. The signature date and expiration date is basically the date entity. So we have about 29 attributes that we are supposed to extract in this process. In a traditional way, how the industry has been extracting information from unstructured data is basically they would deploy an army of humans who would open up each document. Let's take FDA Form 1572. So in this case, we need to extract expiration date, first name, last name, signature date. So what we see on the document is the clinical investigator name, John Doe, and we extract the first name and last name, the expiration date, which is written on the top right corner. We also have the signature date, which is on the second page. And then the manual data preparation team would set the metadata for these contents while pushing it into the target system, and we would end up with a structured data. Enter NLP. Now we have AI-assisted data preparation. So the source systems, unstructured data will be processed by the AI tool, and then the documents coming out from the AI tool will be sampled and reviewed by an SME, and then finally pushed into the target system as a structured data. With that, I hand over to Veysel to define the problem statement.
Thank you, Nirjhar. So, as Nirjhar just briefly explained, we have more than 48 different artifact types, like a document type, and more than 25 different attributes to extract from all these artifacts and documents. So as you can see on the slide, so each artifact type requires different type of attributes from different portion of different region of the document. So, and since all these documents are starting from PDF, we all need to start from OCR, right? So we need to extract these attributes from PDF to image and image to text at first, so that we would be able to process with downstream NLP task. So the problem is hard because every document, every artifact has different layouts, and even the two documents from the same artifact types might have different layouts, and we are training our models on just 1 or 2% of the entire production. For example, if we are training our model on 1K documents in production, we expect to get a high accuracy on 100K documents, and the chances are high that there will be many different layouts that we haven't seen while annotating this data. And in the same document types, we also have handwritten information that we also need to extract. So handwritten recognition is another problem that needs to solve via some deep learning techniques, and then extracting the handwritten date is different than extracting the handwritten names. So that's why we build an assembled network to be able to extract the dates and then the names. And if it's the handwritten information, we were sending it to the handwritten detection API that we developed, and then trying to extract the dates, and then trying to find if this attribute is actually the attribute that we need to extract at the end of the day, right? So since there are multiple dates in the same documents, but there are some hierarchy and some rules defined by SCMEs, we need to write all these rules, and then we need to find the keywords around the target entities. That's why we also train the model to detect these keywords as well. Next slide, please. Like as an extension of the problem statement, we can also say that since there are more than 25 different attributes, all these attributes are appearing in any place of a document given the artifact types. Sometimes these are just the short statements that is easy to extract with NER models, like a name identity recognition models. Sometimes, as you can see on the bottom image, it would be a string-based entities, which is hard to extract by NER systems. That's why we had to write some text classification on top of NER, and then the output of NER also fed into the text classification again, and it would even change the type of the artifacts. So if there are multiple days, for example, as you can see on the right bottom corner, if there are multiple days, we also need to know which one is the attributes that we need to extract given the rule, or if there is any hierarchy between the days. If it's a date but a string-based date, we also need to convert it in a regular date timestamp as well. And then we also need to make sure that the OCR handles all these, like a health authority name, person name, or the dates in a proper way that NLP can extract. That's why we had to build a model that is the combination of multiple submodules. Next one. Next one, please. It's on to you, Nirjhar.
Veysel, for the nice problem statement. One of the most important, and this is actually the first step, is getting the training data. So the training data has to be representative of the entire business document. Plus, you need to ensure that you have enough sample that you can train on. Now, for an organization like us, which is part of the pharmaceutical industry, we all understand how sensitive these business documents could be. So even before you start your project, you should engage with your quality, your compliance team, and your security team to ensure that proper controls are in place for these documents. So these documents are typically existing in different formats. It could be a PDF document, it could be a Word document, it could be a scanned PDF, it could even be PowerPoint presentation. So we need to convert these into text. So we use Spark OCR for converting these different types of document into text. Now, it's not that you can magically convert all the documents into text. You need to do some analysis even before you start converting all these documents into text. You need to ensure or identify where the attribute that you are looking for resides within the document. Now, if you're lucky and handling, let's say, an acceptance of investigator brochure, you may find all the information in the first page. If you are dealing with FDA Form 1572, the information could be spread across the first 5 pages. So depending upon the document type, the information could lie anywhere within the document, as Veysel was mentioning earlier. So that you can scale and that your transformation logic from, let's say, PDF into text is performing, you need to ensure that you select only those pages from the document which are necessary for you to do the analysis or to extract the information from. Once you have the text file, you feed this into the annotation lab. So annotation lab is basically the web-based UI which an SME can access. And what we follow here is 4I principle, meaning one of the SME will actually annotate and another SME would review. So the way we basically take a two-prong approach over here. One is we annotate at attribute level, and we also annotate at entity level. So attribute level annotation is basically you pick artifact by artifact, and then for each and every document, you annotate the attributes that you want to extract. You also annotate the key for those attributes. You draw a relationship between the attribute and the key. And in entity level annotation, you basically mark all the defined entities across entire training data set. So one of the advantage with this is that you get access to a larger data set, and the system can also handle unseen data. Once you have annotated using JSL libraries, we extract the text files and then send it to post-processing of the annotated data. So it could be that the annotators, while they were annotating, may have added an extra space. So you get rid of those. You may want to get rid of some of the additional lines. And then we also enrich and pre-annotate with some of the JSL linear models wherever possible. For example, we use DAID, and also we do some kind of post-processing enrichment of the data. And finally, we end up with augmented training dataset. This training dataset is then fed into the machine learning algorithms for classification and entity extraction model development. What we have eventually is our production pipeline. So our production pipeline comprises Spark OCR for converting any format of the document into a text, a classifier model to identify what is the artifact of the document, NER model. Now these NER models are could be Novartis specific or general or even augmented NER models, and then handwriting recognition model. And on top of that, we sprinkle some post-processing logic, and we have our production pipeline. Now you can scale this production pipeline vertically or horizontally across different servers. So the source data will go through this production pipeline, and we will end up with a structured data in the target system. We sample some of this data, and that's where we bring in our SMEs to review the outcome, and any findings are then fed back to the machine learning algorithms for retraining of the model. Now, this is a long journey. It takes time, and time is money. So you may get questions like, do we really need to spend so much amount of time and effort every time we go with a new source system or we go with a new target system? The answer is no. So the green blocks that you see on the screen, along with Spark OCR, is something which is reusable. Irrespective of the source target, you can continue to use the same models. What would change for you is the post-processing logic. And with that, The application that we have developed has following features. So it's AI based, of course, and it's able to classify and enrich documents. The entire installation is air gapped, meaning that you can actually get an environment which doesn't have access to internet, and you can go ahead and still do the installation. It has OCR capabilities. It is able to detect languages. It also detects and recognizes handwritten text, and you can run the tool in batch mode or in real-time mode. Applicability or indications, we just discussed a migration scenario. What you could also use, and if you are a pharmaceutical industry and you deal with CROs a lot, and you end up getting a lot of documents from your CROs, you can actually use this tool during the bulk upload process into your target submission management system. With that, I will now hand it over to Veysel, who will take you through what is under the hood and also discuss some of the steps that we took to reduce false positive and improve the accuracy. Over to you, Veysel.
Thank you, Nirjhar. So how we did this? So I will just cover two main components actually. How we did the classification and how we did the entity extraction. For the classification, we at first started to play with the basic algorithms at first to see if there's any indication to give the to let us know the type of the document. Of course, it was not enough. So like we started with the TF-IDF based or word embedding based classical machine learning algorithm, as you can see on the right hand side. We would be able to detect the type of the documents like around 1992% with all the text features that we would get. Then we thought about, okay, what if we also could leverage the layout information? Then we ended up using layout LM algorithm. Layout LM is a multimodal pre-training for visual rich document understanding algorithm that we have a pre-trained model in Spark NLP, and we fine-tune this algorithm on Novartis specific data set. So which means that like we labeled since we know the artifact types that we are using during the training period, we labeled this and then let the model learn from the layout, like a visual representation of the text or the spaces between the lines or the colors, etc. So layout LM inside already use text embedding from BERT, visual embedding from ResNet, layout embedding from CNN, and many other steps. Then we assembled both these two algorithms, like layout LM and SVM based algorithm, into one single classification pipeline and try to extract, try to predict the document type. Next slide, please. Then the next step is entity extraction. Since we have more than 24 different artifact types, but it doesn't mean that the 24 different NER model would be enough, because we may need, we ended up having more than 60 different NER models at the end of the project. Why? Because one entity may not be found on the same position or in the same context in the other document type. That's why we cannot use the same NER model like a trained on one document. We cannot use the same on the other documents. That's why we had to train more than 60 NER models, and then we chose different embedding techniques to get a faster inference in production, and then also assembling with the handwritten recognition models so that we can drop the overlapped dates, entities, etc. Next one, please. And at the end of the pipeline, we spent a nice amount of time on the post processing, which we were trying to mimicking the manual process. Because when human annotators starts, they start with their own understanding, right? They can understand this is name, this is date, but when it comes to which date needs to be extracted, there are certain rules that they need to follow. So in AI side, in NLP side, we were trying to mimicking this exact process. So we were extracting the dates, names, title, topics via NLP techniques that we have been discussing so far, and then also following the next steps that the human being are also following, like checking the third-party Excel sheets. Or asking, since we are not allowed to ask a colleague in AI, right? So we were able to just coding the steps that they usually do, like which third-party resources to check, or when to drop which name, when to select which date, etc. Then just by applying this post-processing, we observed that improvement of accuracy is around 30 to 40% in overall. Next one. So the main challenge for us in this project was how to reduce the false positives. So for reducing false positives is highly crucial when it comes to clinical trial documents at the cost of losing the true positives. For example, if I want to give you an example, like out of 100 documents, 70 true positive documents versus 30 true negative documents is usually better than 90 true positive versus 10 false positive, because in the second case you don't know that 10 documents, if they are false, you don't know if and you miss this, and which means that if it's false positive, you don't get the chance to abstract it manually. But in the first case, if you have the true negatives like a 30%, even you have a less true positive documents, we had to choose that option because we would get to abstract that, like extract the information from that 30 documents in the manual process. So that's why we apply some steps to reduce the false positives and ended up with the high specificity across the entire project. Next one. Over to you, Nirjhar.
Of all those effort is basically a good accuracy in terms of classification and entity extraction. So we have about 99% accuracy when it comes to classification or artifact identification, and we have about 97% on entity extraction. And this is actually on a subset of the interset of artifact that we are dealing with, and all of these artifacts are actually from the TMF reference model. So what's the impact? Now imagine we are processing all these documents manually. It takes about 15 minutes, including 4i principle, meaning one person will extract the entity or extract the information from the document by opening up each and every document, and then another person will actually review it. Now, if we were given a task to process 1 million documents, and if we have a team of 100 persons, then it would take about 100 days for us to process all the documents. With AI, and considering that 80% of the documents will be processed via the AI tool and remaining will be handled manually, and there could be umpteen reasons. It could be the document is corrupt, or the model has not seen the document earlier, various other reasons. If we retain the same 100-member team, and if we scale our model to 100 instances, be it vertical or horizontal, to process 1 million document, we would take about 20 days. So this is basically almost 1/5 of the time it took us to process all the document manually. Now, again, time is money. So amount of effort saved is basically the amount of dollar you save. Now, what we are looking at is the reduction in the timeline or the money, right? But what about the downstream impact or the benefits that we get? So if you are in the pharmaceutical industry, you know how important it is to reduce the drug development time so that medicines can reach patient faster, and it does help in that. Another advantage is that no matter however or how much you have a well-written guidance document or rules document, every human being would interpret each and every rule differently. So the inconsistency within a team among different humans would be high. But if we take our model and scale it, each and every instances of that particular model will actually follow the same rule. And even if there are errors, it would be consistent and it would be easier to trace it back and fix it. And let's say we still have that 100-member team, With those savings of 80 days, if they were to focus on some creative work, imagine the benefit it would give to the organization and the community. With that as the food for thought, I leave you with my thank you note. Thank you.
Thank you.